On October 14, 2012, an Austrian skydiver embarked on a quest to become the first human to shatter the sound barrier while free-falling. He did this by jumping from a helium balloon from an altitude of 39,000 meters. This is the story of how this outstanding feat was achieved,
Was that him breaking it?
the challenges they faced, and the daring project Bull Stratos. The target. So let's begin by understanding the records that Red Bull and the skydiver Felix Baumgartner wanted to break. Yes, you heard that right. They aimed to break not just one, but 3 different records at the same time. These were the following. Number 1, to reach an altitude of 39,900 meters in a capsule suspended by a helium balloon, which was adequate enough to break the previous record for the highest manned balloon flight of 37,640 meters. Number 2, upon reaching the target altitude, Felix had to jump from the capsule and free fall to attain a speed of over Mach 1, making him the first person to break the sound barrier whilst free falling. And as a bonus, they also wanted to break the record for the highest altitude jump, which was set in 1960 by US Air Force Colonel Joseph Kittinger, who was Felix's mentor and capsule communicator at mission control for this mission. Apart from Joe Kittinger, the team also consisted of experts from the aviation and skydiving industry, including members from the famous Lockheed Skunk Works, the creators of the legendary SR-71 and U-2 high-altitude aircrafts. But even with the impressive list of experts on the team, challenges were plentiful. So in order to understand them, let's start with some basics. There's a term called terminal velocity, which is effectively the highest speed at which a body falls through a fluid. In our case, taking a typical skydiver as an example, falling from an altitude of 4,000 meters can attain a maximum speed of around 240 to 290 kilometers per hour. This speed is way off our target, hence the necessity to reach a mind-boggling height of 40 kilometers or 25 miles. At those altitudes, due to the less dense atmosphere, the drag while free falling would be minimal, allowing Felix to achieve the maximum speed possible. Secondly, at those altitudes and speeds, there was a very high risk of Felix entering into an uncontrollable spin, which would most likely be fatal. So keeping this in mind, let's get into the preparations made for this mission. Now, as you know, hopefully, that breathing at those altitudes is pretty much impossible. Therefore, a pressure suit had to be crafted, which would not only help Felix breathe, but would also protect him from the elements, including the extreme cold and the heat generated by the high speed he was going to endure. Also, let's not forget, the suit also prevented his blood from boiling. Let me know in the comments below if you know the reason why this would happen. Secondly, they needed a way to send Felix to that height, which, let me remind you again, is 39,900 meters, 5 times the height commercial airlines fly at and 1.8 times the height U-2 flies at. They went on with the tried and tested method of strapping a capsule onto a helium balloon. The pressurized capsule would transport him to the target altitude and also keep him safe during the ascent. Final attempt. Due to the numerous technical difficulties and weather conditions, the scheduled launch on 9th October had to be cancelled. Finally, on October 14th at 9:30, the capsule was launched from Roswell International Air Center. Coincidentally, it was also the 65th anniversary of Chuck Yeager's Bell X-1 flight. Strapped in his pressure suit and in a capsule hoisted by a helium balloon over the hot, arid New Mexico desert, Felix headed towards the cold and equally brutal space. His ascent would take approximately 2 hours. 2 hours of waiting as the tension and anticipation grew. Shortly after passing the Armstrong limit, Felix expressed concerns that his visor heater was not functioning properly. An abort procedure, which would have seen helium vented from the balloon to allow the capsule to descend, was considered, but mission control continued with the mission, and 40 minutes later, they announced that the jump would continue regardless of the problem, hoping it won't cause any issues later. After approximately 2.5 hours of ascent, Felix and mission control began the egress procedures. Jump and descent. 15 minutes after the egress checks began, The pressure between the capsule and the outside stabilized, and the door opened. One of the last items was for Felix to enable his suit cameras. Felix, at this moment, took a deep breath and dove towards the earth headfirst at 12:08. After 42 seconds of descent, Felix reached his maximum velocity, a jaw-dropping 1,342 km per hour. Sonic booms of his descent could be heard from the ground.
Was that him breaking it?
But the challenge wasn't over yet. An uncontrollable spin started within the first minute of the jump. Felix, in this situation, had no sense of his position or attitude. It felt like swimming without feeling the water, because he could not feel the air to give him the sense of direction. If the spin continued, the result would most likely be fatal. His only option left was to hit the abort switch, which would deploy a drogue chute to stop him from spinning, but would also prevent him from breaking any speed records. After 30 seconds of relentless efforts, Felix finally managed to regain stability. After 4 minutes and 16 seconds of freefall, he deployed his parachute, which opened and arrested the freefall at 4 minutes 20 seconds. At 12:17, approximately 9 minutes after jumping from the capsule, Felix landed on his feet in eastern New Mexico. Unknown records. Unknown to Felix and the Red Bull team at that time, they had managed to break not 3 but 4 records. Since the jump was being live streamed on YouTube at that time, the stream racked up over 9.5 million viewers, breaking the record for the live stream with the most concurrent viewers ever on YouTube. And for those wondering, the capsule returned to the ground via its own parachute and landed approximately 70 kilometers east of Felix's landing site. With the descent of Felix and the capsule, the sails of Red Bull soared. Named the dive from the edge of space, the stunt became Red Bull's most lucrative venture. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.